Section 1. The Shootdown. April 2, 1972. 30,000 feet above Quang Tri Province, South Vietnam. Lieutenant Colonel Iceal Hambleton gripped the armrest of his seat aboard the EB-66 destroyer as the aircraft banked through scattered clouds, its electronic warfare pods humming with activity. The 53-year-old navigator had flown more intelligence missions than he could count, but something felt wrong this morning. The North Vietnamese Easter Offensive had erupted 3 days earlier, and the sky below crawled with activity. Hambleton's aircraft, call sign Bat-21, carried the most sensitive intelligence in Southeast Asia. As a senior electronic warfare officer, he knew the frequencies, codes, and locations of every American SAM suppression system in the theater. His head contained secrets worth more than a squadron of fighters. That knowledge made him the most valuable airman in Vietnam and the most dangerous prisoner the North Vietnamese could capture. At 9:43 a.m., the surface-to-air missile warning receiver screamed. Hambleton watched through the small window as a white contrail streaked upward, impossibly fast. The SA-2 guideline missile, radar-guided and carrying a 450-pound warhead, tracked them with mechanical precision. The pilot threw the destroyer into a desperate turn, chaff and flares blooming behind them. It wasn't enough. The missile detonated 30 feet from the fuselage, transforming the aircraft into a tumbling fireball. Hambleton's world became chaos. Metal shrieked. Fire erupted. The centrifugal force pinned him against his seat as the aircraft spun. His training took over. He reached for the ejection handle and pulled. The explosive charges fired, blasting his seat through the disintegrating fuselage into the screaming wind. The parachute deployed with a crack that felt like broken ribs. Silence replaced chaos. He drifted downward, watching his aircraft spiral into the jungle below, black smoke marking its grave. Section 2. Behind enemy lines. Hambleton hit the ground in a rice paddy 3 miles west of Cam Lo, deep in enemy territory. He was the only survivor. 5 crewmen had died in the explosion. The impact drove the breath from his lungs. He lay gasping, his 53-year-old body screaming in protest. Around him stretched a landscape transformed by war. The Easter Offensive had turned Quang Tri Province into a kill zone. 30,000 North Vietnamese troops were pushing south, supported by tanks, artillery, and anti-aircraft batteries that had just proven their effectiveness. He keyed his survival radio. "Any station, this is Bat-21 Bravo. I'm down and need immediate extraction." The response came within seconds. Forward Air Controller Captain Bill Henderson in a Cessna 02 Skymaster orbited overhead, call sign Bilk 11. "Bat-21 Bravo, we see your position. Stay low. The area is hot. We're organizing a rescue." What Henderson didn't say was that Hambleton had landed in the worst possible location. The rice paddies and tree lines around him concealed elements of 3 NVA divisions. American intelligence estimated over 30,000 enemy soldiers within a 5-mile radius. The North Vietnamese knew an American airman had ejected. They were already moving toward him. Hambleton crawled into a bamboo thicket and tried to make himself invisible. The first rescue attempt came within 2 hours. 2 HH-53 Jolly Green Giant helicopters thundered toward his position, their rotor wash flattening the vegetation. The lead helicopter, Jolly Green 67, was 300 yards out when the sky erupted. The NVA had positioned their anti-aircraft guns perfectly. 37mm tracers stitched across the helicopter's fuselage. The pilot, seeing the concentration of fire, broke off. They couldn't reach him. Not yet. Section 3. The Killing Ground. For 6 days, Hambleton lay in the jungle, moving only at night, surviving on rainwater and roots. Above him, the Air Force mounted the largest and most desperate rescue operation of the Vietnam War. They called it the Bat-21 SAR, Search and Rescue, but it quickly became something else. A battle. Forward air controllers orbited continuously, marking enemy positions, calling in strikes. A-1 Skyraiders, F-4 Phantoms, and AC-130 gunships hammered the surrounding area with bombs, napalm, and cannon fire. The operation consumed aircraft, ordnance, and lives at a staggering rate. On April 6th, an OV-10 Bronco forward air control aircraft, call sign Nail 38, was hit by a SAM while directing strikes near Hambleton's position. Both crew members ejected. First Lieutenant Mark Clark landed 2 miles from Hambleton. First Lieutenant Bruce Walker landed directly in the middle of an NVA battalion. Walker's survival radio went silent within hours. He was never seen again. Now 2 Americans hid in the jungle. The rescue had claimed its first life and doubled the problem. That same day, another helicopter tried. Jolly Green 67 made a second attempt, coming in low and fast at dawn. Captain John Call's crew had studied the terrain, planned their approach, calculated the risks. They knew the odds. The HH-53 was 500 yards from Hambleton when an SA-2 missile, radar-guided and terminal homing, struck the helicopter's tail boom. The 20-ton aircraft cartwheeled into the jungle and exploded. All 6 crew members died instantly. The rescue had claimed 7 American lives. Hambleton remained trapped. The Air Force High Command faced an impossible equation. Hambleton knew too much to be captured. The intelligence in his head could compromise operations across Southeast Asia, but the NVA had turned his position into a fortress. Every approach was covered by interlocking fields of fire. More helicopters meant more deaths. Section 4, The River Plan. Lieutenant Colonel Andy Anderson, a 7th Air Force intelligence officer, studied the maps and saw what others had missed. The Miu-Jiang River flowed east through enemy territory, passing within 2 miles of both Hambleton and Clark. A man could float downstream at night, using the current, invisible to thermal sensors and patrols. But Hambleton wasn't a combat soldier. He was a 53-year-old navigator who hadn't been on the ground in hostile territory since World War II. Anderson devised a code using golf courses Hambleton had played. Each hole represented a heading and distance. Over the survival radio, FACs transmitted seemingly innocuous messages. Play the 3rd hole at Tucson National. Hambleton, an avid golfer, would recall that hole's direction and yardage, converting them into compass bearing and distance to travel. The North Vietnamese monitoring the frequency heard only meaningless chatter about golf. On April 10th, after 8 days on the ground, Hambleton began moving. He crawled through rice paddies, waded through irrigation ditches, and hid in bamboo thickets. Above him, aircraft maintained constant presence, striking any NVA movement near his route. The FACs became his eyes, warning him of patrols, guiding him around enemy positions. Bat 21 Bravo, hold position. We have Victor Charlie moving across your path, 200 yards north. Each night he moved, each dawn he hid. The golf course code guided him eastward, play the 5th at Shaw Air Force Base. He remembered that dogleg left 420 yards. He adjusted his compass and crawled. His body, pushed beyond its limits, continued somehow. Dehydration, exhaustion, fear. None of it mattered. He moved because stopping meant capture. Section 5, The Final Push. Lieutenant Tom Norris had seen the Air Force's attempts fail and volunteered what everyone else considered suicide. The Navy SEAL, small-framed and soft-spoken, believed he could reach Hambleton where helicopters could not. On April 13th, after 11 days of hiding, Hambleton reached the river. Norris and 5 South Vietnamese commandos moved upstream in sampans, disguised as local fishermen. They wore peasant clothing, moved slowly, and carried AK-47s instead of American weapons. The NVA controlled both riverbanks. Norris's tiny force paddled through enemy checkpoints in broad daylight, waving casually at NVA soldiers who watched from the shore. The audacity of the approach worked. No one suspected that Vietnamese fishermen were American commandos. They reached the designated pickup point at dusk. Hambleton wasn't there. He had collapsed 200 yards short, his body finally surrendering to exhaustion. Norris left his commandos with the boats and went alone into the darkness. He moved through NVA positions, following the voice on his radio. Bat 21 Bravo, key your mic if you can hear me. A faint click answered. Norris crawled toward the sound. He found Hambleton semi-conscious in a thicket, barely able to move. The navigator's eyes, sunken and hollow, focused on the small figure in Vietnamese clothing. For a moment, Hambleton thought he'd been captured. "I'm an American," Norris whispered. "We're going home." He half-carried, half-dragged Hambleton through 200 yards of enemy territory. NVA patrols passed within 50 feet. Norris froze each time, his hand over Hambleton's mouth. They reached the sampan at midnight. The commandos pushed off silently, letting the current carry them downstream. Behind them, artillery illumination rounds lit the sky as the Air Force provided covering fire. Section 6. The Cost of One Man. They floated through the darkness for 3 hours, passing NVA positions that could have destroyed them with a single burst of fire. At 3 a.m. on April 14th, they crossed into friendly territory. Hambleton had survived 12 days behind enemy lines. Clark was rescued the following night using the same method, Norris again leading the team. Both men were extracted alive. The celebration was muted by the accounting of what their rescue had cost. The numbers told a brutal story. 11 aircraft shot down, 2 helicopters destroyed, 5 crew members killed in Bat-21's initial shootdown, 6 more in Jolly Green 67. Bruce Walker captured and executed. Additional casualties among FAC aircraft and support crews. Over 800 Air Force sorties flown. Millions of dollars in ordnance expended. The largest and costliest rescue operation in Air Force history. For 2 men. Military analysts would debate for decades whether the rescue was worth the price. The cold mathematics suggested abandonment. The reality was more complex. Hambleton's intelligence value made capture unthinkable. The Air Force's ethos demanded that no man be left behind. And perhaps most importantly, every pilot flying over North Vietnam needed to know that if they went down, everything possible would be done to bring them home. Tom Norris received the Medal of Honor. His citation understated the mission's difficulty. Hambleton returned to the United States and retired from the Air Force. He never spoke publicly about the 12 days that cost so many lives. Clark recovered from his injuries and continued flying. The golf course code was retired, too clever and too dangerous to ever use again.